That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years.
No, nothing really comes to mind. I was like, Shih-Ching, listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball to Sunny.
Sunny Hostin just got roasted so intensely by Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus that it looked like she was about to file a complaint against reality itself. What began as another confident hot topic moment quickly spiraled into a dramatic meltdown that no one expected. And honestly, Sunny has never crashed on screen with this level of dramatic force before. Gutfeld came in ready with sharp, polished sarcasm. Tyrus showed up with solid evidence that hit harder than expected. And Sunny, well, she delivered a collapse that sent the entire moment tumbling like a shaky chair on a slippery floor. If you ever thought daytime TV was even slightly calm, this takedown proved the opposite, because the impact felt strong enough to crack the table on The View itself. Get ready, because this whole situation twists into something wild in seconds.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe.
Sunny Hostin sat at that familiar table dressed in full-powered confidence and polished Chanel, ready to deliver another dramatic lecture as if she were auditioning to become the professor of performative outrage at an imaginary elite school. But instead of receiving admiration or applause, she walked straight into a collision with cold, unfiltered reality brought in by Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus from a completely different studio, which somehow made every point they delivered feel even sharper. One moment, she was speaking with absolute certainty, acting as if her view was the only version of truth. And the next, the internet transformed her long monologue into a viral meme titled, "When Delusion Meets Data," proving how fast a strong performance can crumble when confidence clashes with actual information. The shift was so sudden, it felt like watching a balloon pop in slow motion, leaving the room buzzing with shock.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that.
It didn't feel like The View anymore. It turned into a full-on roast session, and Sunny Hostin walked straight into it without even a hint of protection, while the heat blasted higher with every second. Gutfeld didn't need to enter the studio to dismantle her argument. One viral moment, sharp logic, and a generous dose of sarcasm were enough to cut right through everything she said. And Tyrus never raised his voice, not once. Instead, he raised the pressure so smoothly it felt like watching someone quietly stack dynamite beneath a house made of paper without anyone noticing until it exploded. While Sunny pointed her finger from her talk show throne, Tyrus brought out receipts that made her entire narrative look fragile enough to tear like thin tissue during a storm. And this wasn't even the first time she used her seat on The View like a dramatic confession booth no one asked for, because she often speaks as if she's narrating the downfall of society one brunch menu at a time.
Sure, all that, and the price of butter. Sonny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election. But when oh no, nothing really comes to mind, I was like, cha-ching. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down.
She once boldly claimed that certain voters of color couldn't truly understand their own political beliefs unless those beliefs conveniently matched hers, as if she alone decided what counted as a valid opinion. In her world, anyone who disagrees must be confused, misled, or somehow unworthy of joining her imaginary book club of approved viewpoints. But when someone keeps speaking from the top of a moral high horse, those stilts eventually start to wobble, and sooner or later, someone knocks them out from under them with surprising force. That's exactly what Gutfeld and Tyrus managed to do without stepping on the set, firing off inconvenient truths from afar, while Sonny reacted like someone who accidentally brought a foam bat to a chainsaw duel that she never prepared for.
Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sonny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter. So instead, let's check out this clip from Monday's episode of The View when the ladies put their science caps on and discuss the solar eclipse.
What made the entire moment even more unbelievable was how quickly the show seemed to crumble under the pressure. Almost as if the studio lights dimmed, the instant reality began to slip into the conversation. Yet the co-hosts still clung tightly to their script, like backup dancers in a musical called Delusion, trying to keep the performance alive. While Whoopi offered a slow, serious nod, Anna Navarro sighed dramatically as though she had witnessed society collapsing in real time. And Joy Behar tilted her head with the gentle curiosity of someone pretending to listen while secretly planning her lunch order. That's the strange charm of The View. It's less of a panel and more of a synchronized routine where agreement is expected. Disagreement is treated like a dangerous spark, and facts are quietly pushed aside like items you're not supposed to bring through security. If you watch closely, you'll see that every time Sonny says something wildly off track, the others stare with the patient eagerness of golden retrievers waiting for treats. They're nodding, perfectly timed, like there's a hidden metronome behind the camera. And when the conversation starts collapsing, the show instantly shifts to emotional appeals, dramatic claims of victimhood, or a sudden unrelated headline meant to distract the audience just long enough to patch the damage. Whenever criticism lands too hard, they shout misinformation, sprinkle in buzzwords such as dangerous rhetoric, and wrap the moment in a layer of polite elitism to smooth it over. But this time, the collapse was far too big, too obvious, and simply too loud to hide.
Oh no, nothing really comes to mind. I was like, cha-ching. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball to Sonny.
Because Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus didn't bother following the unusual daytime rules of The View, they stepped in from the 5 with the calm confidence of a comedy tag team armed with common sense and cultural awareness, dropping reality checks so casually it felt like they were handing out reminders rather than completely dismantling an argument. There was no shouting, no dramatic arm flailing, just steady and precise comments that sliced right through Sonny Hostin's points, while she reacted like someone trying to swat facts out of the air before they touched the ground. And there's nothing more revealing than watching a person who built a career on long monologues delivered into applause suddenly face complete silence, the kind of silence that exposes every weak spot at once. Sonny will, of course, return to that table the next day with a new take, another lengthy speech, and that familiar intense stare, but deep down she knows that when a reality check hits that loudly, it doesn't simply bounce off. You feel it simmering long after. That's exactly what happened as the panel unknowingly pushed the conversation into self-destruct mode, turning what began as another predictable let's blame the world moment from Sunny Hostin into unexpected comedic chaos. The second Gutfeld and Tyrus floated into the discussion metaphorically and set the entire argument ablaze with one tiny spark of logic. Nobody on set was prepared to handle.
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect the patriarchy here because it's to their benefit. Yeah. They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist.
The topic was crime and policing in America, something Sunny Hostin attacks with the same fiery intensity she usually reserves for lukewarm lattes or disappointing Yelp reviews, launching into what felt like an emotional TED Talk for the theatrically uninformed. Between dramatic sighs, pointed finger-wagging, and sweeping declarations, she painted policing as the root of all evil, crime as some misunderstood art form, and the real problem as simply the world not listening to her enough. Classic Sunny, full of moral fire, yet nearly empty of facts, delivered with the smug certainty of someone who believes a trending hashtag equals legitimate public policy. Then Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus entered the scene, uninvited, uninterested in theatrics, and far better prepared, bringing calm responses packed with numbers and a just right amount of sarcasm to crumble Sunny's argument instantly. Gutfeld began with a sharp takedown, pointing out that the loudest voices shouting "defund the police" often live far away from the neighborhoods that actually need policing, treating private security as normal while suggesting working-class communities experiment with social workers as backup, leaving Sunny blinking like someone forced to recite their internet password on live TV. The room didn't just lose composure in that moment. It lost the entire script as her argument deflated in real time.
It's not even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. Mm-hmm. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican. But
Tyrus jumped in next, delivering a calm, steady breakdown filled with statistics that exposed rising violent crime rates in cities that had tried defunding policies, all while slipping in a sharp reminder about the hypocrisy of celebrities who hire off-duty police officers while preaching the wonders of community-based safety. His style was so relaxed, almost bored, like someone who has explained the same facts 1,000 times to people who nod, smile, and then immediately forget everything the moment something trendier pops up on TikTok. Then Greg delivered the final blow, a single sentence that didn't just land, it exploded, and suddenly the energy on The View shifted from passionate debate to frantic damage control. Sunny tried pivoting with Olympic-level mental gymnastics, tossing out vague talking points while hoping no one would notice her entire argument had gone up in flames on live television. But the internet noticed instantly, and so did the ratings. That's when Tyrus, the calm storm, delivered one more truth-packed punch that shattered her remaining defenses, proving he didn't need to shout, wave his arms, or act like a superhero. He simply presented facts with quiet precision, leaving the show scrambling to regain control and balance.
The problem is that you have to go after the racist people. And if the CEO goes, you know what, I'm not going to allow a woman on my show or man that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, you know, Emily.
He delivered his points with a street-level sharpness that only comes from experiencing real life without the polished filter of media privilege, creating a contrast so strong it practically shook the studio. This wasn't scripted rhetoric shaped to impress a camera. It was raw truth, wrapped in firm, no-nonsense logic that hit harder than anything Sunny Hostin expected. Tyrus struck where it hurt the most, not just challenging her ideology, but exposing the privilege she and other media elites hide behind, especially when pretending to speak for people they barely understand. While Sunny played the part of voice of the oppressed, Tyrus reminded everyone of a harsh reality. She has about as much in common with the average working-class person as she does with a reality TV star. And no one truly represents people in the trenches when their biggest worry is brunch with Ana Navarro. Tyrus delivered this almost casually, turning it into the kind of truth that forces someone to rethink every argument they've ever made, especially when the person speaking is wearing a simple tee while Sunny sits there trying to wear moral superiority like a giant cape. Her reaction? Complete silence, absolute crickets, as she scrambled internally for anything to save her dignity, while Joy Behar quietly whispered, "Abort mission," in the background, like an off-screen command no one dared ignore.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
When the facts started hitting Sunny Hostin harder than she expected, she pulled her classic escape move, flipping instantly from confident intellectual powerhouse to self-declared victim of hostility, as if she had been unfairly targeted instead of being confronted with her own contradictions. The moment Tyrus and Greg delivered sharp, fact-based reality checks, Sunny transformed into the type of person who starts a fight and then cries when someone finally pushes back, accusing them of being inflammatory, even though she had been stirring the flames long before anyone spoke. The truth was simple. Sunny had already set the stage on fire while pretending to watch from the sidelines, and she loves throwing punches only when she believes no one will return them. Her whole attitude of moral superiority crumbled the second she realized she was standing on quicksand rather than solid ground, and you could practically hear her internal panic screaming, "Wait, I thought I was supposed to be the one giving the lectures. How is this happening to me?" The irony was undeniable. The moment reality hit too hard, she switched from debate to victimhood, leaving the woman who often criticizes others for lacking empathy, suddenly crying about being attacked, creating a spectacle that stunned everyone watching.
So that makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the View's gravitational pull.
And then there was the audience, the poor, bewildered group stuck in the middle of this live TV disaster, unsure whether to clap, laugh, or duck under their seats as the show spiraled completely out of control. As expected, social media exploded within minutes, turning Sunny Hostin's meltdown into the newest viral meme across Twitter, where the internet did exactly what it does best: roast the rich, the powerful, and the overly confident until the moment became digital history. Suddenly, Sunny wasn't just a co-host having a bad day. She became a symbol of how quickly a wall of self-righteousness can collapse when confronted with actual facts instead of applause. After such chaos, you'd think The View might acknowledge what happened, perhaps even reflect, but instead they went with their favorite move: pretend nothing happened and move on. The very next episode started cheerfully with a segment about dogs doing yoga, as if a stretching puppy could magically erase the meltdown everyone had witnessed the day before. The show acted completely normal, sliding from Sunny's tense collapse into celebrity gossip, with zero mention of the debate, zero accountability, and a level of gaslighting so polished it could win Olympic gold. It's shocking how effortlessly they maintain that illusion. And even more exhausting to imagine doing it while claiming to be experts on absolutely everything.
Of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny, she's so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
But here's why all of this matters. The show stands as one of the clearest examples of a media echo chamber, a place where confident panelists sit comfortably congratulating each other for sharing opinions based more on feelings than real facts, creating an environment where disagreement is treated like a threat, rather than an opportunity for actual discussion. Gutfeld and Tyrus didn't just roast Sunny Hostin. They exposed the entire style of commentary the show depends on, revealing how disconnected it can become when people pretend to speak for the working class while sitting in a cushy studio far from the reality they claim to understand. Sunny's meltdown wasn't just a personal collapse. It was a public reminder that arrogance and long emotional rants can't drown out the truth forever, no matter how passionately delivered. Looking back, the pattern is clear. Sunny began with a smug attitude. Gutfeld calmly tore apart her argument with solid facts. Tyrus hit with even more hard-hitting truths, and then Sunny retreated into a tangled word salad that couldn't hide how badly she had lost the exchange. In the end, it almost felt poetic, because in the ongoing battle between reality and the show's carefully protected bubble, reality finally managed to grab some screen time. And it was absolutely glorious.